And the fact is, a woman, a feminine force, the feminine force is far, far, far more valuable than the capacity of our womb space, okay, or our ability to make children. Okay. In fact, there's many, many women out there that is not in their authentic truth to have children, but because the programming is so heavy and thick, it's really difficult to be settled in a place in society without playing that role. Not to say there aren't people that do alternative roles. There are. I'm just saying for the most part. Okay. And because of that, many women don't wake up to their authenticity until they become empty nesters. Okay. And empty nesting is when your children grow up and they move out of the house. Now, nowadays, there's this phenomenon that children never move out of the house, which causes a whole nother level of problems for a female maturation on her spiritual journey back to self and her own authentic nature. Okay. But I had a very interesting exposure to older women ever since I was, well, in my teens, really. So I was an equestrian in my early teens, all through my teenagerhood. And one of the best trainers I've ever had was an older woman. She was in her 60s and she was amazing. She was one of the most profound trainers that I've ever experienced. And she really impressed upon me of what a strong, passionate, driven older woman looks like. Okay. She made no excuses about anything, and I mean, her name was Willie. And she was definitely a force to be reckoned with within the culture of the barn. So I've always had very strong older feminine role models in my life, and her being the first. And I was exposed to her, I think I was 11? No, wait a minute. I think I was 12, 13 years old first time I met with her. And I trained with her for several years. And then moving forward, there was a conversation I had with the mother of someone I was dating. And her and I, we just hit it off. We're great, became great friends. I loved listening to her. She was an older woman, and she was the first person to tell me that she can't wait till she gets gray. She can't wait until menopause. Like, she was really looking forward to that time in her life, and she's just like, because she was, I think, in her mid 30s at the time. And she's like, because, she feels this way because she's noticed just how much better she has become with age, and she was, so she really set the tone for me in my mind of what really goes on for a woman as you get older. I mean, I was a teenager when we were having these conversations, and she was brilliant, excellent talker. Oh my gosh, she was very eloquent with her words. And I really admired her. So then fast forward later, when I'm a mom and I have young kids, and it's like, yeah, I had my peer group, but the people that were in my closest circles were all, again, older women, empty nesters. Some of them never had children at all. I mean, they were older crones in my life. All of them I admired so much because when we would sit in circle and they would share, their sharings were so deep and profound. I was envious. I was like, how in the world do they know themselves so deeply? I was just like, oh, I can't wait till I can get to that level of depth in my personal reflections, because I was in my early 20s, and it's like, that's not at all how I was not able to get there that easily. I had to go through a lot. There was, the trials and tribulations were usually predicated with lots of physical exertion and a lot of challenges like this. So I was so envious that they just made it look so easy to know thyself and be their authentic selves and all these things. So those seeds were planted with me young. So growing up into my, further into my adulthood, I didn't have all those mixed signals dominant in my brain about, a woman has to stay young in order to be viable, in order to be relevant, in order to be loved, or you know what I mean? I didn't have any of those things. They were there, but they didn't penetrate, and of course, Hollywood, we have all these older women trying to stay young, and all this stuff. And this is all a distortion to disable the true leaders of our society, of the true leaders of our families. Okay. Both my grandmothers on both sides of my family were very, very influential in my upbringing. They, on my mom's side, it was, cooking. And I mean, I learned so much about, being so she made amazing food, and she thought that there were the recipes, but I deduced way a long time before that it's the love that she put into her cooking. That's what made it so amazing. So I would learn things, deep lessons like that from that side. And the other grandmother was a devout Catholic, and she taught me a lot about the Sacred Mother. Okay, she prayed the rosary 3 times a day without fail. She didn't do it as penance. She did it because she loved connecting with the Great Holy Mother. So that's my Eastern European grandmother. So that really, really also had an impact on me. So for me, moving forward in life, I really had a different perspective of what it is to get older. It's a rite of passage into deeper depth, authenticity, and personal power. So this is the other piece to that, is that as a woman gets older and becomes an empty nester, the demands on her bandwidth and her energy change. You're no longer needing to take care of the family, of the husband and the kids and all that other stuff. And you can start dedicating your bandwidth towards exactly what is important to you. Now, many of us were like, we don't even know what's important to us because we've been raising kids for so long. I mean, that's a real thing. Of course, there are those that chose the path of not having kids at all, in which case they are able to hone in what's important to them at a younger age. Now, this is more about the state of the womb space and our sacredness. It's not necessarily about age. Okay. I don't know how long I'll remain to be a viable mother, birther, whatever you want to call it. What do they call them? Breeders. That's what they call them, breeders. Those labels make me laugh so much. Anyway, who knows how long that'll be viable, but I am visiting what it is to go into the croning years, and what it is to have that time and space to rededicate my bandwidth to exactly what's important to me, what's a priority for me, what serves my path, my soul, my personal sense of why my soul is incarnating in this reality. It's like so much more of my bandwidth can be dedicated to that. When my children moved from the home, which was back in like 2021, 2020. Well, it happened in stages because they're different ages, right? So anyway, but on a energetic hormonal level, so that's the social level, right? All that stuff. But on an energetic hormonal level, it's monumental. Our hormones are very powerful. According to the immortal masters that I've worked with in my life, one of them including Elmine, who was an older woman by time. Well, older woman. I don't really know what that means in immortal standards, but clearly a woman past her 30s and 40s. She and several others impressed upon me how important our endocrine system is. That's our hormonal system, and that our hormones are directly connected to a vital interdimensional life forces. Okay, so she taught, and several others talk about our endocrine glands being stargates, and consciousness informing these stargates, and therefore informing the nature and way different hormones are released through your system. So therefore your hormones are a baseline to the vitality of all of your capacities to be embodied as a divine being in this biosuit. So some would dedicate practices with reclaiming the endocrine system, reclaiming the endocrine glands specifically, like spend hours and hours of meditation, reclaiming the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the pineal, and retuning and altering and cleaning those out, and cleaning out the thyroid and the thymus and the adrenals and the ovaries, if you have ovaries, testes, if you have testes, just spending a lot of time reclaiming all the different parts of your endocrine system. Many of them include the pancreas, by the way, and gallbladder. So when you do that, you're reclaiming stargates, and then you're reclaiming the nature that different hormones get released. Okay, so there's the hormonal aspect to you reclaiming your personal power as a woman in going through perimenopause, right? Menopause, and then of course there's the final stages of that. And what's talked about is that all of the estrogen, which is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, all of the estrogen that your body would estrogen and progesterone that your body would utilize to maintain the cycles, your moon cycles, right? Instead of that sacred nectar going towards keeping the body in these moon cycles, releasing, menstruation cycles and stuff like that, all of those sacred juices are now repurposed. And what are they repurposed to? They were repurposed to whatever you direct them as. Okay. So if you repurpose progesterone and estrogen to something that feeds your passion and your purpose, right? Then that's like the physiological aspect of your biosuit getting realigned to your intent and your purpose, and you become that much more powerful, okay, in your being. The hiccup is that we are terrified as a species of our power and just how influential we are, and therefore we have a lot of subconscious things, counteracting our intent. Okay, this is why so many humans don't feel like they can manifest easily, is because on a subconscious level, we're not congruent. We think we want something, but then there's all these no's, why we can't have it in our subconscious, right? So there's things like that. And then, and so for particularly women, the disempowerment oppression programs have been targeted because we're such powerful sex of the species, all right? So we have deeper access naturally into dream time, which is the main manifesting capacity of humanity. Okay. And if you look at our culture, how many people completely dismiss dreams? Oh, it was just a nightmare. Oh, it was just a dream. No, folks, that's not true. Okay. So you can see the layering that a lot of women really hit as they get older, stepping into that menopausal phase, because that is where they're stepping into the most powerful time of their lives. Okay. And we have a medical system that totally counteracts that. We have an entire system of how we manage our reproductive health, completely backwards. We have all these really backwards systems that counteract our body's natural physical capacity to harnessing personal power in this world. So this is why, in the short answer, when someone says, "Oh, you're no longer sacred as an older woman," it's a no. In fact, in my view, you become even more sacred, even more in your power potentially. Now, I hear all kinds of experiences from women, older women, about their menopausal journey. Some of them, it was, no big thing. And others, it was a real big thing. There was lots of problems. And Lord forbid, if they're deep into the medical system, I've even heard stories where women have had doctors tell them, you should have you should have a hysterectomy. It's just easier that way. You'll have less problems. Yes, folks. Licensed, considered, respected, insane doctors say this to women. Okay. They say this and do this to me, it's a crime against the feminine force, but hey, to each his own on that. But, so women get all these mixed signals. There's nowhere to look for a role model of what it is to step into your cronehood gracefully. Unless you had some events like what happened with me growing up. It's like they were in front of me and in my face. I was surrounded by grandmothers that were lifesavers on so many levels. So for me, it's a great honor to get older, to age into the croning years. It's a great honor.